Look at this crowded street, just another day in the city where everyone is hiding their dark secrets. But when those sins fester, they literally manifest as these nightmare-fueled monsters. And our girl is standing her ground, blade ready to slice through the darkness. She lunges forward with zero hesitation, closing the gap like a total pro. That glowing blade tears through the beast, leaving nothing but shattered fragments in its wake. Meanwhile, we cut to some pathetic loser counting out pocket change like his life depends on it. Turns out this buzzcut bully is literally sitting on his victim, acting like he owns the place. Poor Dihyun is shaking, tears streaming down his face while he takes the verbal abuse. Then the bully loses his cool, winding up for a massive slap that sends Dihyun flying. Talk about a total power trip, just another day of misery for our guy on the ground. Poor Park Jeo is absolutely breaking down, tears streaming as he takes the abuse. But then On Dante steps in with that signature cross earring and a cold stare. He calls out the bully's trashy behavior, looking like he's ready to end this circus. Check out the contrast between the terrified victim and the bully's pure, unadulterated rage. Dante doesn't even flinch, just drops a smirk that screams he's about to wreck someone. He starts roasting the bully for being a high school failure, which hits way too close to home. The bully loses his mind, lunging forward with a desperate, sloppy swing meant to kill. Dante effortlessly parries the strike, showing off some serious reflexes while the bully flails around. He locks the guy up, reciting his crimes like a judge handing down a death sentence. And with a brutal people's throw, he slams the bully into the pavement for the final count. Dante checks on his buddy, but the poor kid is clearly seeing stars after that hit. Meanwhile, the bully is still posturing, acting like he's the main character in this trashy drama. He tries to flex his noob knowledge, but honestly his form is absolute garbage. Dante takes a nasty spill, hitting the ground hard enough to make anyone wince. Now the bully is pinning him down, acting like he's actually accomplished something meaningful. Dante just keeps talking trash, totally unfazed while the bully's ego inflates to dangerous levels. He's got that calm, collected look, even while he's literally pinned to the dirt. The bully finally snaps, winding up for a final blow that's meant to end it. Suddenly, an authority figure crashes the party, looking ready to drop the hammer on these punks. Turns out the school's own educational authority has arrived to restore some order to this mess. The teacher isn't playing around, slamming his student into the floor with a brutal display of force. He's literally holding court in the office, forcing the kids to bow while he dishes out discipline. That same bully from earlier is lurking in the doorway, whispering threats to Dihyun like a total snake. Dante is chilling in the chair, acting like he owns the place while questioning why his friend keeps getting wrecked. The teacher starts laying out his twisted vision for their futures, labeling them like they're just products on a shelf. Dante tries to play it cool, claiming he's just stepping in because he can't stand the sight of bullying. But the teacher isn't buying it, leaning in with that intense gaze to shut down any sense of justice. He's basically telling Dante to ignore the suffering, acting like the trauma will just magically vanish after graduation. That creepy grin on the teacher's face is pure nightmare fuel as he demands total compliance from his student. Dante just stares into the void, forced to swallow the bitter pill of pretending he saw absolutely nothing. Detective On is beaming with pure dad energy, holding a birthday cake like he just won the lottery. Little Dante is absolutely losing his mind with excitement, eyes literally sparkling at the sight of his gift. But then the mood shifts as the dad insists he has to head back out into the night. He tries to brush off his wife's concern, acting like being a cop is just a casual day job. That smile on his face is so genuine, totally oblivious to the tragedy waiting right around the corner. He tells his family to start the party without him, promising he'll be back in a flash. Young Dante clutches that cake box like a lifeline, unaware his world is about to shatter. Turns out the headlines tell the real story, a brutal lynching that ended a hero's life. We cut to the funeral, a sea of black suits and heavy hearts surrounding the grieving family. The kid he saved stands there, bandaged and broken, realizing the massive price paid for his survival. The room is packed with students bowing in a heavy, suffocating silence. Dante is absolutely wrecked, tears streaming down his face as the reality of his father's sacrifice hits home. His mother pulls him into a desperate embrace, trying to shield him from the crushing weight of grief. Back in the present, Dante is walking the streets, still haunted by that lingering question about his dad. He's so lost in his own head that he nearly gets flattened by a car. Shouting in pure frustration, he realizes the world doesn't stop just because he's having a mental breakdown. That familiar cross earring catches the light, a constant reminder of the legacy he's carrying. He spots the buzzcut bully, dragging poor Gio away like he's just a piece of property. Dante snaps out of his trance, his voice cutting through the night air like a blade. The bully turns around with that smug, punchable grin, clearly ready to make Dante's life a living hell. Dante stands his ground, eyes wide with disbelief as he confronts the bully's twisted logic. The bully just smirks, his eyes closed in a moment of pure, unadulterated arrogance. He points a finger, mocking the very idea of a normal, boring school life. Standing on the bridge, the bully looks down on everyone like he's the king of the world. He starts ranting about his own wasted potential, acting like his failures are everyone else's fault. Dante loses his cool, shouting at the guy for being a complete piece of trash. That bully's face twists into a demonic grin, those green eyes glowing with pure malice. He leans in close, whispering that his status as a minor makes him untouchable. Grabbing his victim by the collar, the bully prepares to show exactly how far he'll go. He holds the kid over the edge of the bridge, daring the world to stop him. Dante is absolutely losing his mind, screaming about the law like it actually means something here. But the bully just laughs in his face, mocking the lack of a death penalty with pure, unhinged energy. He's literally standing over his victim, acting like he's untouchable because the system is completely broken. With a twisted, demonic grin, the bully grabs his target by the throat, promising he'll never face consequences. He shoves the kid against the bridge railing, forcing him to look down at the drop below. The victim is sobbing, eyes wide with pure terror as he begs for someone to save him. Dante reaches his breaking point, his eyes glowing with that signature purple rage as he lunges forward. He slams into the bully with everything he's got, desperate to break that death grip. The impact sends them both flying, leaving the victim sprawled on the ground while the chaos unfolds. That smug bully is still cackling, gaslighting everyone by claiming he didn't even touch the kid. That bully's shadow has fully manifested into a multi-limbed nightmare, looming over him like a boss fight. Dante is staring up in total shock, his brain struggling to process this supernatural horror. He's literally floating in midair above the highway, questioning if this is the end of the line, wondering if his father's tragic death was just a precursor to his own messy exit. That white van is barreling toward him, the headlights blinding as reality starts to blur. Everything is bathed in a surreal neon-pink haze, signaling that justice is officially off the table. He's plummeting into a dark, bottomless void, stripped of everything but his own fading consciousness. Suddenly, these armored, ethereal entities emerge from the cosmic soup to claim their prize. They identify themselves as the managers of human goodness, overseeing the so-called seventh-generation arrangement. One of them locks eyes with Dante, confirming that his ultimate sacrifice has finally brought them together. Dante wakes up in this weird cosmic void, totally confused about why he's still breathing. An ethereal, armored figure floats above him, calling him a stupid human while he flails around. The entity looms closer, offering a cold, calculated ultimatum to our boy who just sacrificed everything. Dante stares back with wide, panicked eyes, struggling to process the gravity of this insane choice. The manager dangles a rope for salvation or a rib for power, basically a divine pick your poison. This armored being charges up, ready to bestow the strength needed to hunt down those manifestations. Our guy reaches out, finally realizing that the supernatural nightmare he witnessed earlier was actually real. The entity explains that these monsters are just physical embodiments of humans who lack any shred of guilt. It's a dark, twisted reality where sins literally take shape to terrorize the living. The manager makes it crystal clear that choosing heaven means walking away from this fight forever. The manager of goodness looms over Dante like a golden, tentacled nightmare, demanding a final decision. Dante stares back with those intense purple eyes, his mind flashing back to his childhood dreams. We see a younger Dante walking with his father, talking about his big plans for the future. He tells his dad he wants to be a cop so they can finally spend more time together. His father explains that true justice starts with caring for others, or else you'll always be a victim. The detective challenges his son to show him what his own version of justice looks like. Young Dante makes a pinky promise to his dad, unaware of the tragedy that will soon follow. Back in the void, Dante realizes that choosing heaven is his only ticket to see his father again. He lunges forward through the cosmic purple haze, fueled by the memory of his father's noble path. With a look of pure, unadulterated resolve, he prepares to declare his final, life-altering choice. The manager of goodness drops the hammer, telling Dante he's officially sending him back into the fray. Dante's eyes snap open, that signature purple glow pulsing with a terrifying, newfound intensity. He's back in the physical world, his body literally tearing itself apart as he rejects the afterlife. The bully stands there in total shock, watching the pavement crack under Dante's sudden, violent arrival. Pure confusion hits the bully's face as he realizes his victim is somehow still breathing. Dante isn't playing games anymore, his arm morphing into a metallic, armored gauntlet of pure vengeance. He lets out a primal, earth-shattering roar that vibrates through the entire city street. The bully stammers, trying to rationalize how a kid who just got flattened is still standing. Suddenly, a massive shockwave of energy erupts from the ground, obliterating everything in its immediate path. Dante leaps into the air, his armored limb ready to crush the monster masquerading as a student. That sin monster is looking absolutely feral, teeth bared, and ready to tear through anything. It swings a massive armored fist, but Dante is already moving, dodging the strike with ease. Dante lands a clean hit, forcing the beast back while the victim cowers in the corner. A metallic spike is lodged deep in the monster's chest, showing just how brutal this fight is. The creature looms over the bridge, smoke rising from its body like it's straight out of hell. Dante crouches low, eyes locked on the target, realizing this isn't just some random thug anymore. His purple eyes are glowing with a terrifying intensity, scanning the monster for any weak point. That beast is literally humming a tune, completely unhinged and obsessed with nothing but pure slaughter. Dante checks on the fallen kid, his armored gauntlet still crackling with that supernatural energy. He stares down at the bully he just saved, bitter about the irony of protecting such trash. Dante stands his ground, staring down that hulking sin monster while questioning if ignorance would have been bliss. The beast winds up for a massive, bone-crushing punch, but our guy is ready to dance. Suddenly, a fountain of black ink erupts as Dante pierces the monster with a lethal, precise strike. That creature lets out a blood-curdling roar, its glowing red eyes wide with pure, unadulterated shock. Dante plants his feet, declaring that no human should ever have to die for someone else's sins. He taps into his inner executioner, his arm glowing with that golden cross-emblazoned energy. Focusing on his father's legacy, he channels every ounce of his rage into a singular, righteous purpose. The monster lunges again, but Dante is already closing the distance, ready to finish this nightmare. He catches the beast's weapon with his bare hand, the metal groaning under his supernatural grip. With a final, explosive surge of power, he initiates the execution to wipe this filth off the map. Dante unleashes a savage strike, his arm carving a crimson arc through the air. Pure adrenaline takes over as he screams his defiance, eyes glowing with that supernatural intensity. The sin monster is absolutely shredded, its dark essence splattering across the bridge like spilled ink. Gasping for air, Dante realizes the weight of his new reality as an executioner. He refuses to back down, swearing he won't lose even if 100 monsters swarm him. Both fighters collapse onto the pavement, completely drained after that brutal, high-stakes collision. High above the city, the mysterious entity watches, mocking Dante for rejecting the peace of heaven. The manager warns him that his life is now a one-way ticket to a living hell. Next morning, Dante stands by a pile of trash, looking way too chipper for someone who died yesterday. He heads off to school, wondering if this mundane misery is just the standard Korean high school experience. Dante wakes up in his room, totally confused about how he even made it home. His school blazer is shredded to pieces, a grim souvenir that proves last night wasn't a hallucination. He checks his reflection, still rocking that cross earring and looking for any sign of lingering trouble. Wandering back to school, he's trying to piece together the gaps in his memory. Suddenly, Daehyun spots him and starts bawling his eyes out like he's seen a ghost. Dante rushes over, genuinely relieved to see his buddy is actually in one piece. The kid is apologizing profusely, admitting he was too terrified to stay and just bolted. Daehyun starts rambling about how Dante supposedly took down the bully, acting like it's some legendary feat. Dante grabs his shoulders, desperate to know if the kid actually saw the monster that nearly killed them. But Daehyun just stares back with a blank expression, having absolutely no clue what his friend is talking about. Dante stands in the hallway looking totally bewildered, while that bully is crumpled on the floor. Park Jio is absolutely losing his mind, shaking like a leaf while begging for forgiveness. He's literally groveling on the ground, his hands trembling as he tries to apologize for his sins. The whole scene is just pathetic, with the bully curled up in a ball of pure terror. Meanwhile, the other students are whispering, clearly confused about why the school's biggest menace is acting so soft. Dante is staring into space, his purple eyes wide as he tries to process this weird shift in reality. He's hiding out in the bathroom, clutching his chest while his instincts scream that something is seriously wrong. Memories of that nightmarish monster from the bridge keep flashing through his mind like a bad trip. He can literally sense the malice radiating off everyone in the classroom, like a dark, invisible fog. Suddenly, a strange, tingling sensation hits his chest, signaling that another supernatural threat is lurking nearby. Dante is cornering these two punks in the bathroom, demanding his stolen gear back. They're trying to play it cool, acting like they just misplaced the stuff. But suddenly, a weird, dark energy spikes right behind the bathroom stall door. Dante grabs the kid's face, forcing him to look at the invisible threat hovering above. He's screaming at the guy to open his eyes, but the poor kid is totally clueless. Looking up at the ceiling, the bully wonders if it's just a bug. Dante's face goes pale, his purple eyes widening as he realizes the danger is real. That green, multi-limbed sin monster leaps from the shadows, ready to cause some serious chaos. Dante bolts out of the room, chasing the creature down the school hallway like a maniac. He stops dead in his tracks, staring at the beast as it prepares to strike again. Dante charges down the hallway, his speed absolutely blurring the background as he hunts the creature. He slams his fist into the locked door with enough force to shatter the heavy metal bolt. That monster is already scrambling across the rooftop, looking like a glitchy spider from a bad dream. Dante is totally freaking out, staring at his own hands while questioning how he just broke that door. The sin entity is perched on the edge, showing off those creepy multiple eyes and jagged teeth. He crouches down, trying to play it cool while analyzing the beast in the bright afternoon light. Suddenly, the creature lashes out with a whip-like appendage, forcing Dante to dodge for his life. He clings to the ledge, realizing that even with his new powers, gravity is still a major problem. Dante locks eyes with the target, pointing his fingers like a gun while promising to keep watching. Meanwhile, some suit in an office is already tracking the fallout of this supernatural mess. The news is blasting some horrific story about a kid locked in a suitcase for lying. Dante stands there in the street, looking at the screen with a mix of disgust and exhaustion. He knows this world is just a revolving door of misery that never actually stops. His buddy catches up to him, pointing out the grim reality of these public displays. They're just trying to get to the academy, but the city feels like a total pressure cooker. Suddenly, the kid spots a senior getting absolutely wrecked in an alleyway nearby. Dante's eyes widen as he clocks the scene, his instincts immediately going into overdrive. He rushes over to help the guy, but the victim is already trying to brush him off. The senior claims he just tripped, even though his face is a roadmap of recent violence. Dante isn't buying the act for a second, ready to drag the truth out of this mess. Dante finds the guy slumped in an alley, clearly struggling to keep his composure. The student is on the phone with his mom, putting on a fake, cheerful voice. But behind him, a literal heart-shaped core of malice is pulsing with dark, shadowy energy. Little spider-like sin creatures are crawling all over the walls, feeding on his pathetic lies. Dante watches in horror as the entity reveals that guiltless sin births these nightmare monsters. The student keeps lying through his teeth, claiming everything is fine while his reality crumbles. Dante stares at the scene, realizing the sin of lying is manifesting right before his eyes. This situation is escalating fast, with the monster growing more grotesque by the second. The massive spider-like swarm towers over the boy, feeding on the growing web of deceit. Dante turns to his friend, wondering why he still can't see the horror unfolding right there. Dante desperately tries to shove his friend away, knowing the danger is about to hit critical levels. But the kid just stands there, totally clueless and confused about why his bro is acting so unhinged. Dante is sweating bullets, realizing his arm is completely jammed and the situation is spiraling out of control. He screams at the top of his lungs for everyone to clear the area before things get messy. Realizing the embedded axe isn't budging, he decides to just go full send with his bare hands. He launches himself at the sin monster, fully committed to the idea that the first strike decides everything. That massive impact sends the creature flying, creating a shockwave that leaves the bystanders looking like deer in headlights. Dante lands in a crouch, barely believing he actually managed to send a heavyweight monster soaring through the air. The beast is left screeching in the dirt, clearly not used to getting bullied by a high schooler. Then the monster drops a bombshell apology, leaving Dante absolutely shook that this thing can actually talk. The sin monster is actually pleading for its life, claiming it hasn't hurt a soul. It's literally weeping with those glowing red eyes, begging Dante to show some mercy. Dante is left completely stunned, realizing he's got a massive gap in his knowledge about these things. But the monster's face shifts into a terrifying, toothy grin as it prepares a lethal counter. Suddenly, it launches a razor-sharp limb straight through Dante's chest, pinning him midair like a bug. The pain is absolute agony, Dante screaming as he realizes he just got played by a liar. That beast is cackling, having successfully baited him into a trap with a fake sob story. Dante is still fighting back despite the massive spike through his body, refusing to go down. The creature unleashes a flurry of deadly strikes, forcing Dante to dodge while leaking blood everywhere. He's staring down the monster with pure, unadulterated shock, realizing just how fast this thing really is. Dante's brain is overclocking, tracking the monster's lethal fists like he's seeing the future. He's locked into pure self-defense mode, eyes wide and bloodied but focused on survival. The sin monster is raining down blows, chanting its weird rhythm while Dante barely dodges. He's hyping himself up, realizing he's actually holding his own against this absolute freak. That beast is mocking him, but Dante is already planning his next move to turn the tables. With a brutal, lightning-fast counter, Dante slams his fist right into the monster's guard. He's moving with insane speed now, weaving through the chaos like a total pro. He's betting everything on his own raw experience and that supernatural, reinforced body. Dante realizes he doesn't even need his weapon, deciding to finish this fight with his bare hands. He summons the people's mace, his willpower exploding as he prepares to crush the monster for good. The sin monster is absolutely buzzing, treating this life-or-death brawl like a playground game. Dante launches himself through the air, desperate to land a clean hit on this freak. That beast just opens its maw wide, revealing a dark, twisted throat and a total lack of shame. It lunges forward with terrifying speed, slamming into Dante and sending him crashing into the concrete. The creature mocks him with a cold, calculated jab about how easily humans fall for its lies. Dante tries to retaliate, but the monster is already winding up for another brutal, heavy-hitting strike. That massive fist connects with Dante's ribs, the impact sending him flying backward like a ragdoll. He hits the ground hard, his body smoking and battered as the reality of his weakness sets in. The monster looms over him, taunting his pathetic attempt to fight back with such limited strength. Dante is left gasping on the pavement, realizing his new powers aren't even scratching this nightmare. Dante is absolutely reeling, wondering why his weapon failed him when he needed it most. Meanwhile, the bystanders are just walking by, completely oblivious to the supernatural carnage unfolding nearby. He's gritting his teeth in pure frustration, refusing to accept that his new powers are useless. That sin monster is loving every second of this, mocking him for thinking he could actually win. The beast winds up for a massive, skull-crushing blow, clearly aiming to end the fight right here. Suddenly, a flash of pink energy slices through the air, narrowly missing the creature's head. The monster recoils as a barrage of energy blades tears through the wall behind it. Dante stares up in shock, realizing he's not the only one who can manifest these weapons. That creature sneers at the newcomer, still convinced that humans are fundamentally incapable of defeating sin. A mysterious girl stands on the platform above, weapon drawn and ready to join the fray. The mysterious girl drops onto the scene, rocking a school uniform and a lethal-looking blade. Her intense red eyes lock onto the chaos, radiating a cold, calculated kind of power. She stands tall above the sin monster, questioning if the combatants are actually fellow executors. Dante is left spitting blood, totally baffled by the sight of someone else in his school uniform. She warns him to back off, identifying the green beast as the notorious sin of lying. Dante is absolutely losing his mind, shouting in disbelief that she actually knows about the sins. The girl keeps her cool, casually asking if he just dropped the term executioner. That monster tries to play the victim, claiming its violence was just a case of self-defense. It keeps up the gaslighting, whining about how the humans started the fight and it feels wronged. She finally snaps, cutting the monster off with a brutal strike that shatters the ground beneath them. Dante's eyes are wide as saucers, watching in pure disbelief as the monster's limb just snaps back into place. The mysterious girl doesn't even flinch, casually dropping a sick burn about the monster's nose growing with every lie. She winds up for a massive strike, declaring she's going to lop that lying snout right off. The sin of lying lets out a pathetic high-pitched screech as its mask gets absolutely wrecked by the blade. She doesn't stop there, following up with a lightning-fast slash that cuts through the monster's defenses like butter. That beast gets sent flying across the room, crashing into the debris with a massive, bone-rattling thud. She stands over the wreckage, cold as ice, noting that this specific sin is a rare, annoying find. The girl doesn't hesitate for a second, calling for an execution while she readies her golden-hilted blade. She lunges in for the kill, pinning the creature down and forcing it to face the music. The monster lets out one final, desperate gasp as it tries to claw at the air, completely finished. The girl is absolutely cooking, parrying that massive green claw with a clean, sparks-flying strike. She's moving like a blur, landing a heavy blow that sends the monster reeling backward. Every single clash is pure adrenaline, with her blade carving through the air like a laser. She lands a brutal, direct hit, the impact point glowing with that intense, supernatural energy. The monster gets launched into the wall, the sheer force of the blow shattering the concrete. It's screeching in pure rage, desperate to take her down while it's still standing. She doesn't give it an inch, closing the distance to deliver a final, crushing blow. That beast is panicking as she reveals the secret, explaining that its core is the only thing that matters. She drops the cold, hard truth that the monster's regeneration is totally useless against her technique. With those glowing red eyes locked on, she delivers the final verdict that the creature's time is up. The sin of lying is absolutely spiraling, screaming that it's not a monster but a human. Susanna doesn't care about the sob story, leaping into the fray with her blade glowing bright. She shuts down the creature's pathetic excuses with a cold, sharp reality check. Everything goes pitch black as the monster's perception of reality starts to completely shatter. Susanna unleashes a devastating technique, carving through the air with a massive pink energy strike. The force of her attack obliterates the surrounding concrete, leaving the sin completely exposed. The creature is left whimpering in the dust, realizing its desperate pleas are falling on deaf ears. Debris rains down as Susanna lands, her posture perfectly calm amidst the absolute destruction. Dante is totally losing his mind, geeking out over her bone-based weapon and her status as an executor. She introduces herself as Susanna from the 1st Battalion, looking like she's just getting started. Dihyun is looking totally stressed, wondering why his boy Dante has been acting so weird lately. He's walking through the streets, questioning if those crazy monster stories are actually legit or just a prank. Dante is standing there looking completely lost in a cloud of smoke, wondering where his Hyung went. He's staring at the city skyline, trying to figure out why he even showed up to this spot. Meanwhile, the cleanup crew from the 8th Battalion is busy erasing the evidence with that sketchy forgotten gas. Susanna is standing high up on a ledge, radioing in that the mission is officially a wrap. Dante spots her and calls out, finally getting a name for the girl who just saved his hide. He's showing off his fresh wounds, joking about his lizard-like regeneration while trying to be friendly. She shuts him down instantly, putting her hand up and telling him to keep his distance. Dante is left standing there looking absolutely awkward and rejected, totally failing at making a new ally. Susanna drops a cold warning on Dante, telling him to stay away from the Sin monsters. Dante is left completely baffled, wondering how she just appeared out of thin air like that. She hits him with the harsh reality that executors aren't immortal and can die just like anyone else. Dante is clearly not having it, his face twisted in frustration as he demands she explain herself. He's calling her out for being a hypocrite, pointing out that she's an executor doing the exact same thing. Susanna brushes off his logic, claiming she only fought the monster because it was in her way. She reminds him that their meeting was pure coincidence, just like their run-in the previous night. Dante realizes she's the one who tossed him through his own window, his eyes widening in shock. She offers a dry apology for the property damage before turning her back on him again. Dante stares at his own hand, ready to explain how his resurrection changed everything for him. Dante is absolutely fired up, screaming his lungs out about his mission to wipe out every single sin. Susanna just stands there, unimpressed by his outburst and questioning if that's really all he's got. She squares up with a cold, focused expression, clearly ready to put this amateur in his place. Dante flinches, caught off guard by her sudden, icy shift in demeanor. The two of them stare each other down, the tension on the rooftop thick enough to cut with a knife. She hits him with the ultimate roast, asking if he even knows why he's failing so hard. Without missing a beat, she drops the hammer, telling him he's completely lacking any sense of true justice. She delivers a brutal, lightning-fast kick that sends Dante flying straight into a concrete pillar. The impact is devastating, leaving Dante gasping for air as he's pinned against the wall. She watches him crumble to the floor, calling him a total idiot for missing the point of their fight. Susanna stands over a broken Dante, roasting the entire execution division for being absolute clowns. She makes it crystal clear that she has zero interest in babysitting another incompetent rookie. Dante tries to bark back, still reeling from the beatdown and struggling to find his footing. She shuts him down cold, calling him the biggest idiot of the bunch and walking away. Dante is left fuming, his eyes wide with disbelief as he realizes he couldn't even manifest his weapon. She doesn't even look back, telling him to just keep his head down and live a quiet life. A sharp spike of energy pierces the floor right next to him, a clear warning shot from her. Dante stands alone on the ledge, questioning if he really lacks the justice required to be an executor. He wanders the streets later, still obsessing over her audacity and the absolute disrespect he just endured. Watching from the shadows, he spots a pair of sin creatures and admits she's got serious skills. That little purple sin is acting all suspicious, holding a finger to its lips like it's keeping a secret. Dante stands there in the alley, staring down the creature as it scurries away into the shadows. He looks completely fed up with the whole situation, his face twisted in pure, unadulterated annoyance. Susanna keeps her head held high, looking down on him with that signature icy, detached vibe. Dante is surrounded by a literal swarm of nightmare entities, his eyes wide with the realization that he's trapped. He can't just turn a blind eye anymore, the weight of his new reality crushing down on him. Susanna doesn't hold back, hitting him where it hurts by pointing out his inability to manifest his weapon. Dante screams in defiance, his purple eyes glowing as he tries to summon every ounce of his will. He forces his arm to transform, spikes erupting from his skin as he demands his power to appear. But the energy just fizzles out, leaving him sweating and desperate as he wonders why he's failing. The ground literally explodes as dark, viscous energy erupts from the impact. Dante stands there looking completely shook, his eyes wide as he processes the sudden chaos. He's trying to wrap his head around the situation, clearly struggling to keep his cool. The mysterious guy with purple hair strolls into the frame, looking like he owns the place. He's got that smug, unbothered grin, casually sucking on a lollipop while staring Dante down. Dante is visibly rattled, his voice cracking as he demands to know what the hell is happening. He's desperately searching for answers, but the guy just keeps playing it cool. The stranger admits he was kicked out of the division, which explains his rogue attitude. Dante is barely holding it together, realizing this guy is definitely another executor. The purple-haired dude just laughs, crunching his lollipop and confirming Dante's suspicions with a smirk. This guy Damon is flexing hard, claiming he's the strongest in the entire execution division. He's sitting on a playground slide like he owns the place, mocking Dante's total lack of chill. Damon is just casually snacking on a lollipop, looking way too relaxed for a guy who just dropped a bombshell. He's laughing at the idea of Susanna, acting like he's known her forever and nothing about her has changed. Damon leans in with that smug grin, asking if Dante even knows what happens when a sin finally kicks the bucket. Dante looks completely lost, admitting he thought the monsters just vanished into thin air. Our lollipop-loving friend corrects him, explaining that while the monster disappears, the guilt stays behind like a curse. He compares that lingering regret to a rusty nail driven straight into the heart. Dante is still trying to process the flex, asking if this guy is really an elite executioner. Damon drops the final truth bomb, revealing that even someone as cold as Susanna carries a deep spiritual wound. Damon stands on the playground equipment, laying down the law for his new, unlikely recruits. He's offering to train them as executors, but the price is their total commitment to his vision. Dante looks absolutely fired up, his eyes burning with the raw, unrefined desire to purge every sin. A quick flashback shows a grizzled mentor, his face etched with history as he calls out to Susanna. Back in the present, Susanna wakes up in her room, looking like she just rolled out of a nightmare. She's clearly haunted by the memories of that annoying kid, venting her frustration at the empty air. Her laptop screen lights up with a cold, corporate notification about a new-level evil mission. She scoffs at the idea of destroying all sins, dismissing the entire concept as total garbage. Pulling on her jacket, she declares that these monsters are eternal and there's real work to be done. Meanwhile, the city traffic is a complete gridlock, with everyone oblivious to the supernatural war brewing nearby. Two crisis negotiators are trying to talk some sense into a guy who clearly lost his marbles. The dude is absolutely spiraling on the bridge, screaming about how society just erased his entire existence. He's clutching his head in total agony, ranting about 7 wasted years in prison for nothing. Looking down from the bridge, the scene is a total circus with traffic backed up for miles. He's threatening to jump and curse everyone for eternity if he doesn't get 10 billion won immediately. Susanna is on the scene, looking bored out of her mind while checking in on her phone. Back at headquarters, the command center is buzzing with monitors tracking the chaos across the city. The operators are keeping a close watch, waiting for any sign of a sin to actually manifest. Susanna leans against the bridge railing, looking like she's waiting for a bus rather than a suicide jumper. She watches the guy from the shadows, already completely over his dramatic, non-stop yapping. Sarissa is chilling on the pavement, looking bored as she tells the guy to just get it over with. She's got that devious smirk on, suggesting they record the whole disaster to make a quick buck. Susanna looks absolutely unimpressed by the hustle, staring down her senior with a cold, deadpan expression. The tension on the bridge is peaking, with Sarissa calling out the mission as her own personal business. She's totally unbothered, admitting she blew all her cash on idol albums and needs the extra dough. Susanna's eyes narrow in pure disgust, labeling the whole situation as completely pathetic. Sarissa fires back with a savage roast, pointing out that Susanna is basically a fossil compared to her idols. She keeps the insults coming, claiming Susanna is the real loser for being stuck in the past. Sarissa finally stops the banter, declaring it's time to handle the incoming evil-level threat. She stomps the ground with a massive shockwave, telling the rookie to just watch and learn. The bridge is absolutely crawling with those tiny, annoying sin creatures. Susanna and her senior are just standing there, debating the point of wasting energy on small fry. Dante looks like he's seen a ghost, his face pale and his eyes wide with pure disbelief. He's questioning the logic of waiting for these things to cluster, clearly not vibing with their apathy. Susanna shuts him down with a savage remark, reminding him that this is the official headquarters. She checks her phone, totally over the drama and ready to get the real mission started. Traffic on the bridge is a complete nightmare, with drivers losing their minds over the sudden closure. A massive airship looms overhead, dropping a thick white smoke grenade to obscure the entire scene. The gas starts venting from the ship, preparing to wipe the memories of every civilian in sight. Chaos erupts as the smoke blankets the bridge, forcing the team to finish their business before anyone notices. The sin of chaos has officially arrived, looking like a nightmare straight out of a fever dream. Susanna and Sarissa are already midair, diving into the thick of the action without a second thought. That twisted monster is busy taunting the hostage, acting like it's just playing a casual game. Sarissa doesn't even blink, dropping a cold, savage roast about the monster's pathetic, half-baked ego. She's already locked and loaded, standing tall with her bone blade ready to end this freak's existence. The duo is moving in, totally unfazed by the chaos while making it clear they don't care about the civilians. The monster suddenly lets out a terrifying, high-frequency screech, mocking the human for its racing heartbeat. A massive shockwave of pure noise power erupts, tearing through the air and shaking the entire bridge. Susanna is caught in the blast, her face contorted in pain as blood starts leaking from her ears. She's reeling from the sonic assault, desperately wondering if her eardrums just got completely blown out. Susanna is absolutely reeling from that sonic blast, her ear bleeding and her patience wearing thin. She doesn't let the pain stop her, launching herself into the air with pure, unadulterated rage. The sin of chaos is hovering above the bridge, looking like a total nightmare while Susanna closes the gap. She's clearly fed up with the entire job, calling out the other executors as total clowns. It's a chaotic mess of a battlefield, with various fighters clashing while the mission goes completely off the rails. Susanna strikes with lethal precision, pinning the beast while the suicide threatener plummets toward the pavement below. She's reflecting on how these people are so desensitized to death that it's become their daily routine. That sense of justice they once held is fading fast, becoming duller with every single life they fail to save. The guy is still falling, his face twisted in a final, desperate expression as he reaches for the sky. Susanna dives down to catch him, proving that despite all the cynicism, she's still committed to saving lives. Susanna dives into the void, reaching out desperately to grab the falling man's hand. She manages to snag him, their bodies colliding in midair as gravity tries to claim them. The impact is brutal, with Susanna struggling to maintain her grip while they plummet toward the earth. She's wide-eyed and frantic, screaming out for Dante as the situation spirals completely out of control. Dante's eyes are glowing with that intense purple energy, his face twisted in a manic, unhinged grin. He's clearly losing his mind, laughing at the sheer absurdity of their life-or-death freefall. Meanwhile, the sin of chaos is getting absolutely wrecked on the bridge, its body being torn apart by the chaos. The monster is spewing smoke and screeching in agony, its form dissolving into a swirling mess. Sarissa lands on the scene with a heavy thud, looking annoyed that she missed her chance to shine. She glances over, spotting a mysterious newcomer and wondering exactly who the hell just crashed the party. Dante is absolutely losing his mind, screaming with blood-soaked teeth and glowing purple eyes. The sin of chaos looks on, its singular, massive eye pulsing as the girls watch in shock. He lunges with a brutal board scratch technique, tearing through the air to dismantle the beast. Dark energy lashes out like a whip, forcing the monster to back off as Dante takes control. He lands with a heavy thud, his metallic gauntlet crackling with raw, unrefined power. The monster is clearly rattled, realizing this rookie is actually putting up a real fight. Dante drives his armored fist straight into the creature, the impact sending shockwaves across the bridge. A massive curved blade of energy slices through the water below, creating a huge splash. Sarissa is totally baffled by the sudden shift, wondering why this brat is suddenly acting so tough. Susanna stares in disbelief, her red eyes widening as she realizes Dante finally unlocked his weapon. Damon is out here sipping on some blue boba, casually dropping that our boy Dante has potential. Meanwhile, Dante is still standing on that rooftop, looking like he's about to have a total breakdown. Damon keeps that smug energy, acting like he's the ultimate sensei while enjoying his drink. He starts breaking down the lore, explaining how Dante's heart is literally fused with a divine rib. Dante is just staring at his own hands, totally confused why his powers are ghosting him. Our guy Damon hits him with the weirdest metaphor ever, comparing his power struggle to a bad case of constipation. He tells him to focus up, staring deep into Dante's soul with those intense, piercing eyes. Damon flips the script, questioning how Dante is even walking around after his body got absolutely wrecked. Dante is spiraling, remembering what Susanna said about his regeneration while his heart starts pounding. The truth finally drops, revealing that Dante is basically just a hollow shell waiting for his real power to wake up. Turns out, every executor is rocking a heart imprinted with Jusian's rib. That divine hardware is the literal engine room for their supernatural abilities. The energy flowing from that core is what they call power, the stuff that builds their bodies. Keeping that energy balanced is the only thing stopping them from literally exploding. Dante is trying to wrap his head around focusing that juice into just one hand. Damon breaks it down. If he dumps too much power into one limb, he's gonna shatter. But he won't actually die since the heart stays intact, just leaving him in a loop of endless pain. He warns that the mind might actually snap way before the body does. Dante looks at his own hand, feeling the weight of that dangerous, unstable energy. And just like that, the reality of his situation hits him, he's barely holding it together. Susanna is absolutely losing her cool, screaming at Dante to get lost while she drags him away. She's clearly not having his attitude, but Dante is firing right back with his own stubborn energy. The sin of chaos gets launched into the air, looking like a total wreck as it gets tossed. That monster is screeching in pure agony, its form twisting as it takes a massive hit. Susanna is moving with lethal intent, her blade glowing as she carves through the battlefield. She's unleashing a flurry of strikes, sending sparks flying everywhere as she shreds the creature. Sarissa is standing there looking completely bored, questioning why Sasana is acting so weirdly soft. She keeps the heat coming, roasting Sasana for being a low-rank scrub after all these years. Back in the playground, Dante is demanding answers from Damon about why he brought Sasana up. Damon just hits him with that creepy, knowing smile, explaining that Dante is still pure and untainted. The air is thick with tension as Dante and Sasana stand surrounded by swirling, ghostly energy. Dante is absolutely losing his mind, screaming that saving a human life is his top priority. Sarissa just laughs in his face, calling the whole duo arrogant for thinking they're special. She points her spear-like weapon right at them, demanding to know which battalion these nobodies belong to. Dante is totally clueless about the military lingo, looking to Sasana for a way to handle this. Sarissa sighs at their incompetence, clearly annoyed that she has to deal with such clueless rookies. Her eyes go wide with pure shock as she realizes the truth about Dante's existence. She asks if he really went through the resurrection process, her voice trembling with disbelief. Sarissa stares in total confusion, questioning why she should even care about saving anyone at all. Dante drops the ultimate truth bomb, explaining that sacrificing one's life is the only way to become an executor. That cold, red-eyed stare is absolutely piercing, judging everyone who doesn't know the harsh truth of this world. Dante and Sasana are standing there, looking like a pair of absolute rookies getting roasted by the veterans. Sarissa is leaning back with that smug, toxic energy, mocking the idea of a century-old rank 5 giving her orders. She flashes a wicked grin, clearly enjoying the chaos and questioning if anyone here is actually cut out for the job. Sasana doesn't even flinch, keeping her cool while confirming she's ready to do whatever it takes. She plants her weapon into the ground with a massive shockwave, signaling she's done with the talk. Taking a leap of faith, she dives straight into the fray, ready to save the civilians on the bridge. Dante watches her go, completely stunned by her reckless, straightforward approach to such a deadly situation. He's still trying to process the disrespect, wondering why she isn't even slightly bothered by that senior's trash talk. Standing his ground, Dante reaffirms his core mission, dead set on wiping out every sin to protect the people. Sasana stands her ground, questioning the logic of Dante's reckless crusade against the sins. She drops a cold truth bomb, reminding him that the Executioner Division is far from a fairy tale. Constant combat against endless waves of monsters has left the veterans completely numb to the mission. She points out that these jaded fools have stopped caring about civilian lives entirely. Yet she acknowledges that Dante actually managed to save someone, which is a rare sight. She pivots to his ambitious goal of becoming the minister, clearly doubting his naive resolve. Dante doesn't even blink, declaring he will purge every single sin while protecting the innocent. He doubles down on his promise, swearing to his father that he will achieve both impossible tasks. Meanwhile, Sarissa is losing her cool as her energy drains, cursing the rookies for wasting her time. She recalls the legendary one-stroke kill from 50 years ago, wondering if she could ever replicate that power. Sarissa is diving headfirst into the chaos, dropping a cold truth that these monsters are never going away. She's absolutely mocking the sin of chaos, calling out its pathetic attempt to run away with those tiny feet. Then she unleashes a brutal signal spear strike, carving through the monster like a hot knife through butter. She's got that cocky grin, claiming she can just shut the creature's mouth whenever it tries to use sonic attacks. Sarissa follows up with a savage kick, aiming to smash the beast's head in one clean, violent motion. The monster retaliates with a massive blast of noise pollution, shaking the entire bridge with pure sonic force. Sarissa is reeling from the impact, her eyes wide as she realizes she just took a direct hit. Blood is streaming from her ears, and she's genuinely questioning if her eardrums just popped from the pressure. The monster isn't done yet, taunting her for underestimating its power while she struggles to regain her footing. It reveals that it's been tracking her movement patterns the whole time, turning the tables on our arrogant fighter. The sin of chaos is straight up taunting her, asking if she's really aiming for its body. Sarissa doesn't play games, unleashing a massive 700 decibel blast that shreds the air. She lands a brutal, face-shattering punch that sends shockwaves rippling through the monster's ugly mug. Blood is pouring down her face, and she's looking at the beast like it's a total joke. She keeps the pressure on, landing a heavy kick that forces the creature to maintain its balance. Sarissa is absolutely unhinged, flashing a terrifying, blood-stained grin while she mocks the monster's failed attempt. She calls out the creature for being too slow, declaring it's time to end this little dance. With a lethal flourish, she summons a massive barrage of energy spears called phalanx. She tears through the beast with a final, savage strike that leaves it completely dismantled. The monster goes flying off the bridge, leaving Sarissa standing there, looking genuinely confused and annoyed. Dante launches himself off the bridge structure, closing the distance to the falling Sasana with insane speed. Sasana's eyes are wide with pure adrenaline as she realizes she's about to be caught in midair. A random observer on the bridge is losing their mind, completely baffled by a rank 5 moving that fast. Dante's face is twisted in a manic, toothy grin, fully aware that the sin is still very much alive. They land on the road, Dante already brainstorming how to handle the situation without crossing the seniors. He scoops Susanna up in a bridal carry, looking like he's ready to pull off a wild stunt. She's absolutely shook, realizing that an executor's raw strength is enough to handle a human body with ease. Susanna snaps back to reality, calling him a total lunatic for the reckless move he just pulled. Dante ignores the roast and channels his energy, creating a massive shockwave as he prepares to launch her. He executes the people's throw, sending Susanna flying toward the target with a massive purple energy boost. Susanna goes full beast mode, driving her blade deep into the sin with zero hesitation. She's midair, looking shocked as Dante drops in from above, screaming for her to pull the blade. He's clearly panicking, shouting about the nail being the only way to actually end this thing. Dante slams his fist down with a massive burst of energy, trying to force the kill. Damon watches from the sidelines, looking down on the chaos with a bored, judgmental smirk. The whole crew hits the pavement hard, the monster finally collapsing as the dust settles. That dying sin is still twitching on the asphalt, desperately trying to get a few last words out. Dante is kneeling there, absolutely losing his mind and yelling at Susanna for being so reckless. Sarissa walks up, totally unbothered, and casually mentions that the nail is already destroyed. She points to the airship dropping gas, telling the rookies it is time to bounce before things get messy. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife as the mysterious girl demands to know who Dante is. Susanna isn't having any of his hesitation, literally kicking him into gear while calling him a total idiot. Dante is sweating bullets, looking completely out of his depth as he admits he is a fresh resurrection. Looming over them like a fever dream, the sin of chaos pulses with those creepy, bloodshot eyes. The mission logs from March 2021 flash on screen, showing a brutal history of casualties on the job. That massive entity descends upon the bridge, tearing through the structure like it is made of paper. Chaos reigns as the team gets caught in the crossfire, with limbs flying and blood painting the road. The monster's dark, tendril-like appendages whip through the air, slamming the duo into the pavement with zero mercy. Dante is left in a heap of agony, screaming as his body struggles to process the sheer trauma. Susanna is absolutely fuming, screaming at him to stop whining about his missing limbs and get back in the fight. Susanna is getting pushed to her absolute limit, bleeding out while being told to regenerate her own body. She spins through the air like a lethal top, dodging the monster's massive, sweeping tentacles. Both fighters slam into the concrete wall, leaving a crater of blood and debris in their wake. The sin of chaos is just vibing, acting like this whole massacre is a total inconvenience to its schedule. It looms over the bridge like a giant, pulsating ball of eyes, ready to swallow everything in sight. Sarissa enters the chat with a massive technique, calling it accomplice's honor as she prepares to strike. She cranks her power output to the max, launching a high-speed kick that tears through the monster's defenses. A massive, bone-white great spear manifests from thin air, crackling with raw, yellow energy. The spear pierces the creature's core with a sickening crunch, sending it spiraling toward the water below. Sarissa stares down the dying beast, questioning why anyone would waste their time on the smaller, weaker sins. That massive sin eye is staring into our souls, basically saying that killing them is a total waste of time. Sarissa is looking absolutely done with this, realizing that letting these things cluster is a recipe for disaster. She goes full berserk, launching a massive lookout spear that tears through the air with pure, unadulterated rage. The impact is insane, shredding the monster's organic mass into nothingness while the bridge takes a serious beating. Sarissa is left hanging in the air, looking completely annoyed that she's got nowhere solid to land. She's cursing her luck, realizing she's stuck in a tactical nightmare with no footing to finish the job. Meanwhile, the command center is identifying the threat as the sin of aiding a crime. The operator is sweating, warning that this brutal-level monster is way out of a rank 5's league. She's begging the 8th General to send in the heavy hitters because the city damage is hitting critical levels. But the 8th General is just chilling in his chair, completely unbothered while reading a comic book. The 8th General is just chilling in his chair, totally unbothered while reading a comic book. He finds the whole situation pretty mid, acting like the real-world chaos is just a total bore. Meanwhile, the operator is absolutely losing her mind, screaming for the general to pay attention. He doesn't even look up, dismissing the entire high-stakes crisis as just another tired, predictable trope. He starts breaking down the cycle, explaining how small sins just evolve into bigger problems for everyone. This endless loop has been the standard for over a century, and he's clearly over it. He admits that reading his manga is way more entertaining than actually doing his job. The operator stares at him in total disbelief, realizing her superior is completely off his rocker. Winston stands by as the general keeps his eyes glued to the page, ignoring the emergency. Damon steps in with a smirk, pointing out there is one more interesting guy to watch. Susanna is absolutely losing it, stomping on the ground and screaming at Dante to wake up. She's desperate to get him moving before that nightmare senior Sarissa decides to crash the party. Dante is lying there completely wrecked, muttering about the sheer pain coursing through his broken body. He's flashing back to the brutal cycle of his life, from his first death to the sin of lying. The kid is hanging on by a thread, his eyes glazed over as he questions his own survival. He remembers the mentor's cold warning, asking if he's really ready to endure this hell as an executioner. Dante finally finds his footing, pushing himself up with a grunt as he answers the call. He's spiraling into a dark place, thinking about the misery that monster inflicts on everyone around it. Susanna is right there with him, struggling to break through the barrier while the rain pours down. They lock eyes, both of them swearing to stop this madness 100 times over if they have to. The sin of chaos looms over the duo, its massive eye pulsing with pure, unadulterated malice. A sudden, terrifying vision of a great red bird flashes, hinting at something far more ancient. Dante and Susanna are caught in the crossfire as a massive, bloody energy strike tears through the air. Both of them are screaming in pure adrenaline, charging forward with everything they have left in the tank. That brutal impact slams into the monster, sending shockwaves across the bridge as the reality of their power hits. Susanna is left panting on the ground, looking up in sheer disbelief as she calls out for her senior. A discarded black jacket lies shredded on the pavement, looking like a total piece of junk. Onlookers are absolutely losing their minds, realizing Dante actually pierced the monster using nothing but that jacket. The 8th General watches from the shadows, his plague doctor mask hiding a look of genuine, chilling interest. Damon steps onto the scene, shirtless and radiating pure legendary energy as the missing general finally returns. Dante and Susanna are sprawled out on the pavement, completely drained and looking like they've been through a meat grinder. Some observer is watching them with a cold, judgmental eye, calling them out for wasting their energy on pure regeneration. The mysterious guy, Damon, stands tall with his back to us, staring down that massive sin of chaos. He's got that legendary aura, calling out the current generation of executioners as a bunch of absolute rot. Damon sheds his jacket like he's ready to hit the gym, telling the monster to leave the heavy lifting to him. He channels a blinding, golden light into his hand, pointing a single finger like he's about to drop a nuke. A massive beam of pure energy erupts from his hand, tearing through the air and lighting up the entire bridge. The sin of chaos is getting absolutely vaporized, its tentacles and eyes dissolving under the sheer intensity of the blast. Damon calls out his technique as Tutata Reality, a move that looks like it's literally rewriting the laws of physics. The monster is left trembling and confused, wondering why this guy is even bothering to clean up someone else's mess. Damon is absolutely flexing his status, letting everyone know he's an executioner with that unhinged grin. He channels his raw conviction into a massive, golden fist that screams pure, unadulterated faith. The sheer force of his strike tears through the air, creating a vortex of destruction that swallows the sin. A blinding, golden cross erupts from the impact point, washing over the entire bridge like a divine judgment. The chaos finally settles as the bridge clears, leaving behind only the cold, sterile silence of a job done. Official records confirm the threat is neutralized, noting the suicide threatener was hauled off by the police. Paperwork piles up in the office, documenting the endless, soul-crushing grind of the executioner personnel. Sarissa looks over the medical reports with a grim expression, questioning the limits of their forced regeneration. Susanna sits in the office, looking completely fed up while she gets grilled about her excessive workload. She fires back with zero chill, blaming the rest of the lazy squad for forcing her to carry the team. Susanna is absolutely losing her mind over the insane quota required to become a minister. She questions if killing 60 billion sins is even remotely possible for any human. The other agent just shrugs it off with a smug, confident grin. He claims that once he hits that rank, he'll just make everyone else do the heavy lifting. Susanna is clearly fed up with his attitude, calling him out for being a total disaster. She warns him that his reckless habit of pushing himself will eventually lead to a permanent end. He just laughs it off, suggesting that having a strong partner around is the only way to survive. The scene shifts to Dante lying on a hospital table, looking completely drained after his latest brush with death. He looks up at his companion, confused by the grim talk of dying on duty. His friend explains that it's the final state for an executor when their heart can no longer regenerate. Dante is still reeling from the chaos, his voice barely a whisper as he checks on the civilians. His buddy gives him a solid thumbs up, reassuring him that everyone made it out in one piece. Lying there in his hospital gown, Dante looks completely drained, like he's just hit a massive wall. He admits that without the help of his team, he would have been toast, calling himself useless. His friend looks at him with a deadpan expression, asking if the whole ordeal was actually scary. Dante stares at the ceiling, venting his frustration about how these monsters just invaded his normal life. He realizes that the executioners have been keeping this entire supernatural war under wraps for ages. Tears start streaming down his face as he vows to get stronger so others can stay oblivious. Suddenly, Susanna walks in, looking totally confused by the weird emotional vibe in the room. His friend awkwardly points out that she's the one who literally saved his life with her power. Susanna is rocking that lab coat and jersey combo, looking like she's ready to drop some medical-grade shade. She's sipping her milk with those mismatched eyes, warning anyone who calls her a kid that they're basically dead. Dante is looking totally lost, just nodding along and calling her older sister like a total rookie. The whole squad is gathered in the room, with Dante sitting on the table while the veterans loom. That short-haired girl is clearly annoyed, wondering why everyone is acting like Damon is some kind of legend. Damon is just chilling, listening to the news about orders from headquarters while the room stays tense. Dante is testing his mobility, waving his arms around to see if he's still in one piece. The narrative drops a cold reminder that he's only 2 days post-resurrection and barely back from the grave. Susanna is losing her patience, screaming that she's done trying to play the responsible doctor for this mess. She pivots to asking if Dante does any running, leaving him totally confused about where this is going. The squad stands in the sterile room, hit with a bombshell order from the first general. Dante and his partner look absolutely shell-shocked, eyes wide as the reality of their situation sinks in. Susanna steps up, pointing a finger with that intense, mismatched eye stare ready to drop the hammer. She starts rambling about legendary North Korean spies, moving through tunnels like they're built different. Damon just laughs off the absurdity of it all, while Dante is clearly struggling to keep up. Panic sets in for our boy Dante, who is suddenly worried about his mandatory military service. Damon finds the whole question hilarious, letting out a loud laugh at the sheer ridiculousness. He drops the heavy truth that Dante is the only executor from this century. Dante's face goes full cartoon shock, his jaw hitting the floor as the gravity of his existence hits. Meanwhile, the first general looks on with cold, calculating eyes, questioning if anyone is actually going to survive. The first general sits at a chessboard, looking like he owns the entire room. He drops a cold line about the odds of winning, his eyes locked with intense focus. Susanna points a finger, laying out the mission to reach headquarters with zero room for error. Dante looks completely baffled, wondering if this task is actually as simple as it sounds. She snaps at him for being a total idiot, reminding him this is a formal test. The whole crew gathers in the underground shelter, listening to the briefing with heavy tension. Susanna explains the entrance is buried deep between Seodaemun and Gwanghwamun stations. A map shows the long subway route, warning that it takes 30 minutes to cross. Dante asks what the catch is, and Susanna hits him with the one brutal condition. They have to sprint along the tracks without the subway driver ever catching a glimpse. Dante and Susanna are sprinting for their lives, kicking up dust like they're in a high-speed chase. He's totally spiraling, shouting that this isn't a sin fight but some kind of twisted endurance test. Meanwhile, the first general is just chilling in his library, casually moving chess pieces like a total boss. He drops the lore that the last guy failed twice, making it clear this test is no joke. The general doesn't even care about the outcome. He's got way bigger fish to fry than just one recruit. Back in the tunnel, Dante and Susanna are pushing their limits, screaming encouragement while the train tracks rattle. Damon is absolutely vibing, cheering them on while acting like a 10-kilometer sprint is just a light warm-up. Dante is looking completely shook, staring at Damon like he's seeing a literal god in human form. The guy isn't even breaking a sweat while he effortlessly outpaces them, making them look like total amateurs. Dante is losing his mind at the sheer absurdity of this mission as they race against the incoming train. Damon is acting like a total menace, reminding the duo that staying hidden is the only rule that matters. He's literally sprinting through the dark subway tunnel, leaving a trail of purple energy in his wake. That heavy footfall hits the concrete with enough force to crack the ground, showing off his insane control. The train is closing in fast, and our heroes are scrambling to keep pace without getting turned into roadkill. Susanna is pushing Dante to his absolute limit, screaming that he needs to figure out his own power. She drops a cold reality check, telling him that this isn't just about speed, it's about pure raw energy. Dante is looking totally lost, trying to wrap his head around how Damon makes this look so easy. They start bickering mid-sprint, with Dante denying he's trying to show off his new skills. The duo unleashes a massive burst of power output, launching themselves forward like human missiles to dodge the train. They're pulling off some insane public stealth moves, flying through the air while the subway car barrels right past them. The trio tears through the subway tunnel, with Dante stumbling hard as the ground erupts under his feet. He clutches his mangled foot in agony, the hospital gown already soaked in fresh, crimson blood. Sasana doesn't even break stride, dragging him along while Damon watches with a smug, detached grin. Damon flashes a hand, basically telling them he's done playing babysitter for this high-stakes sprint. He stands over the struggling recruit, reminding him that he's already survived one lethal truck collision. The guy is literally laughing at the situation, mocking Dante for wanting to compare truck impacts to trains. Sasana is absolutely fed up with the banter, screaming at the rookie to stop whining and move. Dante forces himself up, his face twisted in a desperate grimace as he starts sprinting again. He realizes his body is moving at superhuman speeds, questioning if he can actually hit 60 kilometers an hour. Blood sprays from his mouth as he pushes past the pain, determined to survive this insane trial. Dante is absolutely spiraling, gasping for air as his lungs feel like they've completely collapsed. He watches Sasana sprint ahead, realizing that this insane pace is just another Tuesday for her. Blood is pouring from his mouth, and he's genuinely terrified that his heart is about to give out. He hits the tracks hard, face-planting into the gravel while his body refuses to listen to him. The coughing fit is brutal, leaving him sprawled out on the ground and gasping for a shred of life. Damon looms over him, looking bored as he notes that Dante's regeneration is hitting rock bottom. Our boy is curled up in a ball, panicking because he can't even move a single muscle. He stares into the void with wide, bloodshot eyes, knowing that a burst heart means permanent death. The subway train roars through the tunnel, shaking the very foundation of the earth beneath them. Sasana is screaming at him to get up, but Dante is stuck in the path of the oncoming train. Sasana is absolutely losing her mind, screaming at Dante that he's really going to die right here. She's frantic, shouting his name while he lies broken on the tracks in his hospital gown. Meanwhile, the first general is being hyped up as the strongest hand in the entire division. He's shown playing chess in a quiet room, described as a cold and ruthlessly rational guardian. The narrative questions why Damon is hanging around these rookies after being MIA for 50 years. His eyes are locked in a piercing, intense stare, hinting that he's got some hidden agenda. The first general is revealed to be a total savage who dumps anyone not meeting his standards. Damon stands over the pathetic Dante, openly roasting him for being such a massive disappointment. He mocks the kid for falling apart so easily despite being recruited for his supposed strength. Finally, he hits Dante with the brutal truth that his power is fading because he has nothing left to save. Dante is literally coughing up blood while his senior drops the most depressing reality check ever. He's sprawled on the floor in his hospital gown, looking like he's about to meet his maker. A massive fist slams into the ground, showing he's still got enough spite to keep fighting. He's clinging to the belief that as long as his heart keeps beating, he's basically immortal. That internal engine is the only thing keeping him from turning into a permanent corpse. He's literally forcing his own body to move, pushing past the pain like a total madman. Red energy flares from his eyes as he decides to break his own internal balance. He's standing right in the path of the train, channeling everything into one final, desperate burst. That glowing heart is pulsing with raw power, ready to sacrifice everything for a single second of speed. Sasana is watching in total shock, realizing this absolute idiot is actually going to pull it off. Dante pulls off a literal miracle, launching himself through the air to narrowly dodge the speeding train. The trio lands on the platform with a massive shockwave, barely escaping the metal beast's path. Damon looks completely unbothered, casually dropping the fact that they've actually reached their destination. Dante is left staring at the massive high-tech gate, looking like he's seen a ghost. He's totally spiraling, wondering how the hell he managed to push himself that hard without dying. Damon just laughs it off, claiming he was ready to kick Dante's ass if he stayed down. The rookie is still vibrating with adrenaline, letting out a manic laugh as his body starts to recover. Sasana looks absolutely exhausted, lying on the ground while lecturing him about not acting so pathetic. Dante fires back, calling her an idiot for not realizing they were already at the finish line. Damon reminds them that the real test isn't over yet, pointing toward the final gateway ahead. Damon stands before a massive high-tech wall, telling Dante that raw muscle won't cut it here. He explains that opening this gateway requires a precise, focused concentration of power in the hands. Dante looks completely wrecked, clutching his injured arm while lamenting this never-ending, uphill grind. Suddenly, a secret door slides open, revealing a mysterious woman waiting for them in the shadows. She beckons them inside with a casual wave, telling the group she has been watching them for a while. A massive cloud of white smoke erupts as they enter, which she identifies as the exhaust of forgotten gas. Dante is still being carried, screaming that he is about to have a total brain failure from the stress. Sasana shuts him down with zero hesitation, telling him to stop acting like a childish brat. They step into the sprawling, high-tech headquarters that has been fighting sin for 2,000 years. Sasana flexes her ambition, declaring she will be a leader here one day while Dante calls her a special case. Sasana drops the lore that despite the organization's massive history, there are only 144 active executioners. She points out the support staff, just normal public officials grinding away to keep the operation running. Dante confirms his name, breaking down the meaning behind his title while looking like a total hospital patient. Susanna notes that he's already a local celebrity among the staff for being the last of his kind. Dante fires back with a sarcastic thumbs up, reminding her that she's still just a school-aged junior. They finally reach the massive, imposing gate where all the high-ranking officers are waiting inside. Dante is visibly sweating, wondering how such a massive, endless facility is hidden right under the city. Susanna tries to calm his nerves, explaining that this is just a standard interview with the first general. She shifts the mood, realizing the real headache isn't the interview, but the unpredictable daemon. The first general looms over the assembly, greeting the last executioner as the entire room falls silent. The first general, Eden, sits on his throne like he's the king of this entire underground operation. Dante stands there looking like a total fish out of water, trying to act professional while still in his hospital pajamas. Eden cuts him off with a sharp glare, clearly unimpressed by the rookie's nervous energy and talk of tests. He leans forward, radiating pure authority while calling out Dante for treating the division like a joke. Dante is left completely stunned, his jaw practically hitting the floor as the general's intensity fills the room. Eden drops the hammer, asking if the kid really thought that insane subway sprint was just a simple trial. The story shifts to a dark, symbolic mural of the fall of man, highlighting the roots of human malice. A grotesque apple pierced by a nail appears, representing the twisted monsters born from our own sins. We get a wide shot of the elite executioner headquarters, showing the heavy hitters who actually keep the world from burning. Eden stares daggers at Dante, making it crystal clear that he's playing a much bigger game than anyone realizes. Dante stands there in his hospital pajamas, looking absolutely bewildered by the intense atmosphere. The first general leans in close, his expression unreadable as he starts to explain his reasoning. He sits on his throne like a total boss, casually mentioning that 5 p.m. is clock-out time. Dante and Susanna stare back, completely floored by the idea that these guys just want to go home. The realization hits Dante like a truck, his eyes widening as he processes the absurdity of it all. He can't believe these powerful beings are just obsessed with leaving the office on time. Eden keeps that cold, steady gaze, explaining that this privilege is sacred for all public officials. The whole room feels heavy with tension as the squad stands before the high-ranking officers. Rashad steps forward, looking sharp in his military uniform as he prepares to deliver the report. He confirms that Dante already took down a sin of attempted murder just 2 days after his resurrection. The higher-ups are putting the squeeze on Susanna, calling her out for hiding what went down. She stands there in the hot seat, looking calm while the big bosses demand some answers. Susanna doesn't hold back, admitting she totally misjudged the kid and thought he was dead weight. One of the higher-ups looks absolutely shook, his eyes wide as he processes her blunt confession. She doubles down, explaining that her past assessment was based on his lack of raw power. Another agent chimes in with a smirk, roasting her for being way too quick to judge. Susanna keeps it real, acknowledging that Dante might look weak but his drive is on another level. She points out that his will to save people is a rare trait that actually matters. Taking full responsibility, she tells the board she is ready to face whatever penalty they dish out. Dante looks on, completely stunned by her loyalty as he realizes she is actually sticking up for him. Eden drops a bombshell, calling Dante a disciple of the infamous traitor Gideon. He mocks the kid's unique way of thinking, clearly unimpressed by his rookie status. Dante is left reeling, wondering if there was actually a massive betrayal within their ranks. He tries to brush it off, but the tension in the room is thick enough to cut. Eden leans back on his throne, laughing off the idea of thinning out their own numbers. Our boy Dante stands there in his pajamas, looking totally overwhelmed by this high-stakes meeting. He's struggling to process the reality of the execution division and its bizarre, cold atmosphere. Rashad steps up, pointing out that this gig is basically just a secure income source. He lays down the law, reminding the recruits that they have zero choice in this matter. The final order is given, leaving Dante and Susanna with no room to argue their case. Dante is absolutely hyped, clenching his fist like he's ready to take on the entire world. He declares his mission to wipe out every single sin, his eyes burning with pure, unadulterated conviction. The first general watches this display with a weary hand over his face, clearly unimpressed by the melodrama. He compares Dante's naive idealism to the infamous traitor Gideon, casting a dark shadow over the room. Our boy Dante is totally blindsided, asking who this mysterious turncoat is while looking like a confused hospital patient. The entire assembly of high-ranking officers watches the scene, wondering if this kid is actually the real deal. Cleaver loses his cool, snapping that he's had enough of the chatter and wants to cut to the chase. He mocks Dante's grand speech, questioning how a total rookie thinks he can solve a 2,000-year-old problem. Damon steps in to defend his protege, pointing out that the kid has only been alive for 2 days. A mysterious figure with glowing green eyes warns Damon not to get his hopes up too high. The room is absolutely packed with heavy hitters, all staring down the rookie like he's a bug. Damon is getting grilled about his 50-year disappearance, but he's just grinning like a total maniac. He keeps that smug, unbothered look on his face, clearly not sweating the accusations of betrayal. Damon starts laughing his head off, pulling out some ancient dirt to deflect the heat. He brings up a 300-year-old memory of someone wetting themselves on their first mission. The mood instantly snaps as he unleashes a massive, crackling wave of purple energy. He launches himself across the room with terrifying speed, turning the floor into a crater. That high-speed kick creates a shockwave that tears through the air, forcing everyone to scramble. Dante is caught in the middle of the blast, looking completely panicked as the ground shatters. Rashad watches the chaos unfold with a calm, analytical eye, wondering if that was a power offset. Cleaver is absolutely losing his mind, screaming that he won't let anyone hold him back today. He launches himself into the air with pure, unhinged rage, ready to rewrite his embarrassing history. A masked operative watches the chaos unfold, dryly roasting Cleaver for bringing up his own bladder issues. Damon just brushes him off with a smirk, telling the guy not to be so clingy. He lands a brutal, clean strike that sends blood spraying across the room like a fountain. Damon follows up with a lightning-fast kick, moving so quickly he's basically a blur of motion. He mocks the 7th Battalion's supposed no-talk policy while landing another heavy blow to the face. The fight turns into a total beatdown, with Damon unleashing a flurry of strikes that shatter the surroundings. Dante and Susanna watch the carnage from below, completely baffled by this internal civil war. Our boy Dante is spiraling, swearing that once he's in charge, he's banning both fighting and peeing. Valdemar looms over Dante, her massive frame casting a shadow that makes him look like a total shrimp. She stands there like a literal mountain of muscle, staring down the rookie with pure, intimidating energy. The title card drops, revealing her as the 3rd Battalion General, the legendary spine breaker Valdemar. Her eyes lock onto Dante, questioning if he's actually delusional enough to think he can wipe out every sin. She challenges his sanity, asking if he really believes he can achieve what no one has done in 2 millennia. Dante is completely overwhelmed by her sheer size, but he shouts his commitment with everything he has left. Valdemar isn't buying the talk, making it clear she despises anyone who lacks the grit to back up their words. She raises a massive fist, promising to support him with the full might of the 3rd Battalion if he survives one hit. Her gaze intensifies, warning him that she's going to test if he's actually worthy of such a ridiculous dream. Meanwhile, the masked observer watches the tension spike, noting there are still 20 minutes left on the clock. Valdemar towers over Dante like a literal titan, demanding he prove his resolve with just one hit. Susanna is totally panicking, shouting that this is a suicide mission for a guy in hospital pajamas. Dante stands his ground, looking tiny against the massive general while the rest of the squad watches. He screams that he will prove his 100-fold will, his eyes burning with a terrifying, desperate intensity. The kid squares up, bracing for the impact of a fist the size of his entire head. Meanwhile, Damon and Cleaver are still going at it, trading blows that light up the room like fireworks. Damon keeps his cool, telling Cleaver to chill out before they wreck the whole underground facility. He effortlessly dodges an attack, mocking his opponent for forgetting they are fighting in an enclosed space. Cleaver is absolutely unhinged, yelling that he doesn't care because the cleanup crews will handle the mess anyway. He keeps pressing the attack, throwing shade at Damon for being a disgraced general with a Gideon lookalike in tow. Damon goes full beast mode, unleashing a massive energy chop that tears through the office walls. He stands there looking absolutely shredded, his purple energy flaring as he prepares for another round. The office is getting absolutely wrecked, with energy blasts blowing holes in the ceiling and filing cabinets. Debris is flying everywhere, and the poor support staff are diving for cover like it's a war zone. Damon is still standing in the middle of the chaos, telling his opponent to get up and keep fighting. Cleaver isn't having any of it, launching a high-speed kick that slices through the air with lethal precision. He screams at Damon to watch out for the civilians, clearly losing his mind over the collateral damage. Damon just laughs off the concern, taking a brutal hit to the face while mocking his opponent's soft heart. The room turns into a total bullet hell, with energy projectiles firing off in every direction like fireworks. Some random staffer is losing his cool, shouting that he has already saved enough people to last a lifetime. Cleaver is absolutely losing his mind, screaming that saving everyone is a total pipe dream. His eyes are wide with a mix of trauma and pure, unadulterated cynicism. Damon doesn't even flinch, grabbing Cleaver by the throat like he's just a piece of trash. He towers over his opponent, looking completely bored while the office gets wrecked around them. That purple energy flares up, signaling he's finally ready to drop some hard truths. He mocks Cleaver for being a total mess, even bringing up his embarrassing past. Damon keeps the pressure on, questioning if he really thinks the rookie is anything special. He shuts down the idea that Dante is different, keeping a cold, detached expression. The guy is just another cog in the machine, according to Damon's twisted logic. He looks down at the beaten Cleaver, dismissing the rookie as just another average executioner. Valdemar stares down the rookie with eyes that could freeze hell over, demanding to see his resolve. Dante doesn't blink, his face set in stone as he promises to prove his hundredfold will. He looks around, totally confused as to why his internal power isn't doing a single thing. The massive general winds up a punch that looks like it could level a skyscraper. Dante takes the hit square in the gut, his face contorting into a mask of pure agony. He slams his hand into the concrete, forcing himself to stay upright through sheer, stubborn spite. The impact sends shockwaves through the entire hall, shattering the wooden benches like they were toothpicks. Blood sprays everywhere as he spits out that he doesn't need any handouts from the 3rd Battalion. A sudden flashback hits, showing a guy standing on a pipe asking if he wants help with his dream. Dante collapses into the crater he just made, his body finally giving out as the world fades to black. The senior operative looks down with a cold smirk, telling him he's destined to be just another nameless grunt. Dante is absolutely wrecked, coughing up blood while telling them to judge him however they want. He stares up at the giant looming over him, questioning if they really think their 2,000-year record is unbreakable. His eyes flare with a terrifying, glowing pink energy as he screams that his true will is all he needs. That raw power surges through him, but his body is clearly hitting its absolute limit. Valdemar stands ready, her aura crackling with enough force to turn the entire floor into a disaster zone. She unleashes a devastating strike that sends Dante flying, his body crumpling under the sheer pressure. The impact is so violent it tears the room apart, leaving him broken and gasping for air. He lies there in a pool of his own blood, looking like he's finally reached the end of the line. Susanna watches in total horror, screaming his name as the smoke clears and his body goes completely limp. Dante is absolutely cooked, his face a mask of blood and pure, unadulterated agony. He hits the floor like a sack of bricks, leaving a massive crater in the stone. His eyes roll back into his head, completely glazed over as his consciousness starts to slip. The verdict is in, and it's a hard no from the big legs, not yet. Valdemar stands over the wreckage, looking completely unbothered while the rookie lies there in a heap. Our boy is sprawled out, twitching in the smoke, his hospital gown shredded to pieces. The recruit from the 3rd Battalion is still yapping, trying to defend the kid's pathetic performance. Valdemar shuts him down instantly, laughing off the idea that Dante has any real potential. She drops the real truth bomb, explaining that sin isn't even the biggest threat to humanity. They walk away as the small, lingering creatures gather in the shadows, waiting for their moment to unite. Valdemar and her recruit stand before the massive monitors, discussing how the modern era has finally streamlined the slaughter. She looks absolutely shredded and unimpressed, staring at the screens while dropping the cold, hard truth of their reality. A frantic officer bursts in with a report about a level 2 brutal sin spotted over in Hina. Valdemar doesn't even blink, casually ordering the nearest executioner to just go ahead and finish the job. The scene shifts to a live feed where an executioner is looking totally lost, wondering why the hell headquarters is calling. He stands on a rooftop scanning the horizon, completely baffled because he can't find a single trace of the target. Back at the base, Valdemar is visibly annoyed, questioning how one of her own people could be so wrong about an evil spirit. Meanwhile, a sin is shown dragging itself along the tracks, looking like a total nightmare straight out of a horror flick. The monster lets out a pathetic, gurgling death threat, clearly struggling to keep its own body together. A mysterious figure looms over the creature with a twisted, manic grin, mocking its desperate attempt to survive. Susanna slams a massive nail right into the sin of abuse, pinning the writhing monster down. She unleashes a flurry of dark, shadowy limbs that tear the creature apart in a bloody display. Laughing like a total maniac, she mocks the monster for actually putting up a decent fight. She tosses the creature aside like trash, calling it useful despite its hideous, disgusting appearance. Her eyes glow with a wild, golden intensity as she taunts the sin about its true nature. The monster gasps for air, clearly infatuated with her twisted display of absolute dominance. She admits she hates ugly things, yet she can't help but be drawn to this chaotic energy. Grabbing the sin by the throat, she demands it become her weapon and worship her. She clutches her own head in a manic frenzy, screaming for the creature to love her. The sin trembles in fear, promising to bring her more interesting victims to slaughter instead. Dante is looking absolutely wrecked, drooling and staring into space like he's completely checked out. A creepy doctor with stitches across her mouth pops up, framing her face with her hands. She's hovering over the fallen rookie, mocking him for nearly dying twice in one single day. The first general sits on his throne, looking bored while complaining about the wasted time. Dante's eyes go wide with pure terror as he realizes he's officially become a total liability. He's curled up on the floor in his hospital gown, looking like he's hit rock bottom. The eighth general in his plague doctor mask starts roasting the kid for being a boring brat. He gestures toward the first general, suggesting the first battalion should just take the dead weight. The masked creep keeps laughing, pointing out that Dante's axe fits the 7th Battalion's weapon collection. The first general finally snaps, shooting a death glare at the 8th general to shut him up. Dante and Sasana stand in the wreckage, getting absolutely roasted for their connection to a traitor. The 4th general and Valdemar are totally vibing on the hate, calling the kid a childish nuisance. Other high-ranking officers chime in with cold indifference, claiming he lacks the talent for core injection. Dante's eyes widen in pure shock as he realizes the entire room is looking down on him. The first general looms over the group, asking if the rookie finally understands the harsh reality. He makes it clear that they don't need a hero, especially not one with Dante's baggage. A close-up shows the minister's policy in action, emphasizing that every executioner is on a tight leash. The visual shifts to a broken, eye-filled apple, representing the hidden, rotting truth of their secret war. Eden asks if Dante is still clinging to his naive dream of saving everyone. Dante screams back, demanding to know why these powerful legends refuse to make human lives their priority. Eden looms over the room with a shadow-covered face, pointing a finger to demand what Dante plans to do next. He coughs into his hand while dropping the cold truth that even if every sin vanished, human murder would still exist. Dante stands there in his hospital rags, questioning if they are really expected to turn their weapons on regular people. A dark, ancient mural of the fall of man appears, serving as a grim reminder of how long this war has truly raged. The general stands tall in his sharp red suit, explaining that executioners are forced to live with the aftermath of that cycle. He mocks Dante's naive talk of effort and tenacity, clearly unimpressed by the rookie's attempt to play the hero. Eden paces the room, insisting that the only real duty of the division is to maintain the status quo at all costs. He stares down the kid with a detached, icy gaze, telling him that he is ultimately powerless to change anything. Dante looks completely shook, his wide purple eyes reflecting the realization that his words mean absolutely nothing to these people. Rashad delivers the final blow, confirming that every single battalion representative has officially refused to recruit the last executioner. The meeting is dragging on, and the officers are already looking for an exit strategy. Suddenly, the ceiling caves in as Dante and Sasana get absolutely launched into the room. Damon lands like a total boss, pinning the 7th Battalion's cleaver to the floor. Dante is completely losing his mind, screaming for his mentor while the room descends into chaos. The first general steps into the spotlight, announcing the arrival of the missing former 6th general. Eden stares down the intruder with cold eyes, calling out his shameless return after 50 years. Damon just flashes a cocky grin, mocking the entire assembly for being a bunch of lazy sluggards. The whole room is filled with debris and tension as the power dynamic shifts instantly. Eden isn't impressed by the theatrics, questioning why Damon is resorting to such childish, loud provocations. The 8th general threatens him with dissection, but Damon just keeps that smug, unbothered energy. Damon is looking absolutely shredded, dropping some heavy shade about how 2,000 years is a ridiculously long time. He struts through the hall like he owns the place, calling out the higher-ups for being total sluggards. Dante and Eden lock eyes in a tense standoff, the air thick with the weight of an impending, massive shift. Damon stands front and center, dropping the ultimate bombshell that he has actually found a way to erase sin forever. The scene cuts to a quiet, sunny day over the city, a total contrast to the chaos brewing inside. A sin of theft is caught on a rooftop, looking like a nightmare as it prepares to bolt. Dante and Sasana are already on the move, their energy blades crackling with lethal golden light. 3 days later, the duo is fully geared up and ready to hunt, looking like absolute pros. Sasana is on the comms with headquarters, keeping it cool while they track the target across the skyline. They dive off the building in a high-speed pursuit, officially kicking off the execution as they plummet toward the city. Sasana is locked in at her console, headset on, hyping up the squad's latest high-stakes mission. She looks genuinely shocked at the intel, wondering if someone is really gunning for the top spot. Meanwhile, a hulking level 1 sin crashes the party, forcing Dante and his partner to scramble. The tension is off the charts as Dante's energy blade crackles, signaling he's not playing around today. He's looking totally frazzled while his partner roasts him for his classic, deer-in-headlights expression. Dante screams that his resolve is hitting a massive power spike, ready to throw hands. But the monster shuts that down instantly, landing a brutal slap that sends him flying. His partner isn't impressed by the performance, sarcastically noting that even 50 more tries won't help. The sin looms over them with those glowing red eyes, hungry for a quick human snack. It charges up for the kill, ready to prove that two humans are just another easy win. Dante goes full kamikaze, launching himself at the beast while his partner strikes from above. The monster swings its massive, clawed arm, forcing Dante to scramble across the rooftop in a desperate retreat. He plants his feet and delivers a heavy punch directly into the creature's chest. His partner flips through the air, shouting at him to stop tanking every single hit like a total amateur. She lands with grace, mocking his lack of progress while reminding him that these sins learn way too fast. Dante grinds his teeth, blocking a massive blow with his arm as he growls that he already knows the drill. He focuses on the glowing nail, knowing that breaking it with his weapon is the only way to end this. The beast grabs his arm in a crushing grip, leaving him to wonder what happens if he fails right now. His partner leaps back into the fray, demanding an answer as she prepares to strike the monster again. She unleashes a lethal glowing blade that slices through the air, finally putting the pressure on the Sin. The level 1 Sin goes full savage, using its snatch ability to literally yank Dante out of the air. It follows up with a brutal burglary attack, tearing through his defenses like wet tissue paper. Susanna dives in to intercept, her blade glowing as she tries to keep the monster from finishing him off. She screams at the kid to wake up and stop acting like a total amateur in the middle of a fight. Dante is left gasping for air, his body wrecked and his pride even more bruised than his ribs. He realizes that getting punched by the third general was just a warm-up for this nightmare. Eden sits on his throne, looking bored as he dismisses the whole situation as unoriginal trash. Dante points a finger at the masked creep, calling him out for being a total pervert. He demands the return of the 10th Battalion and its general position, acting like he's got a real plan. Eden asks why they're playing these number games, only for Dante to grin and drop the bomb about an upcoming war. Damon is out here playing puppet master, literally grabbing his two recruits like they're action figures. He's got that classic, unhinged grin on his face, demanding they prove their worth one by one. The guy is basically daring the entire room to challenge his decision, looking absolutely smug about it. He announces the temporary formation of the 10th Battalion, effectively forcing the Ministry to play his game. That creepy plague doctor from the 8th Battalion isn't letting him off easy, promising a brutal interrogation later. The room is a total disaster zone, with armed guards surrounding the trio while the higher-ups watch. Damon gives a casual thumbs up to the crowd, acting like he didn't just wreck the entire facility. Dante is spiraling in his own head, feeling like a total failure despite his mentor's blind faith. He's flashing back to getting absolutely folded in the crater, realizing he has zero results to show. Susanna steps up with her blade ready, calling him out for being a total idiot and asking if he's finally mad. Dante is looking absolutely wrecked, coughing up blood while trying to process the absolute beatdown he just took. The Sin is busy running its mouth, mocking him for being a total loser who gets dragged around by monsters. Susanna is huffing and puffing, her red eyes burning with intensity as she asks if he's looking for a pity party. Dante snaps back in a rage, screaming at the monster while it looms over him with those terrifying, jagged teeth. The Sin unleashes an extortion attack, forcing Susanna to dodge through the air as the ground erupts in green energy. Dante is left completely baffled, staring at the swirling green gas while wondering what kind of cheap trick this is. The monster mocks him again, cackling that humans don't have wings and are destined to fall to the law of gravity. It follows up with a pickpocket strike, using shadowy tendrils to snatch them out of the sky like flies. Susanna keeps her cool despite the chaos, slashing through the darkness while Dante struggles to stay in the fight. She cuts the banter short, declaring that she doesn't know how to give comfort and refuses to lean on anyone. Dante is absolutely reeling, staring at his partner with pure awe as she effortlessly tanks the monster's assault. He takes a second to catch his breath, his eyes burning with a desperate, singular ambition to wipe out every Sin. The monster lets out a guttural, terrifying roar, its massive maw wide open and ready to tear them to shreds. Susanna doesn't hesitate for a heartbeat, launching herself into the air to deliver a brutal, bone-crushing strike. She screams with unhinged intensity, fully committed to dominating the battlefield and putting the creature in its place. The girl commands Dante to hold his ground, her voice cutting through the chaos like a sharp blade. She leaps onto the beast's back, pinning it down while Dante watches the carnage unfold from the sidelines. Susanna is clearly losing her mind, shouting at the reckless rookie for his suicidal tendencies in the heat of battle. Dante grips his weapon with white-knuckled force, his eyes glowing with that signature, dangerous pink energy. He dives straight into the fray, driving his blade into the monster as the entire rooftop erupts in a violent, bloody mess.